This is a Hope 1032 podcast.
I love those situations because on a moral development scale, one of the things that is really, really good for developing compassion is being not in the crowd. People who have been left out as teens, who are not necessarily being the popular person, have more compassion as adults, have more ability to feel and think for others.
Welcome to She Wasn't Born Yesterday, the pod that fearlessly chats about all things affecting us ladies who are 40 plus fabulous.
Well, and the guys that want to know what we think.
Well, them too. I'm Janet Evans, advertising creative.
And I'm Jenny Woodhouse, semi-retired social worker.
In other words, you're busier than ever. We're J&J and we're super thrilled you're with us for She Wasn't Born Yesterday. Gorgeous, as 40 plus fabulous ladies, if we have teenagers, it seems like more often than not these days, teens are suffering from anxiety.
I keep hearing all the time.
Or maybe it's just that, everyone's more aware of it or there's more publicity in the media about it. It just seems to have become a thing. But it's weird because, when you're a toddler, for example, you couldn't care less if you got food in your hair or you got your shoes on the wrong feet or whatever. You just don't care about stuff. But suddenly when you become a teen or tween, you suddenly really care so much more about how you look, what people think of you. I think that's like the huge thing. And, whether you fit in, whether you'll get through your exams, how fat you are, what's wrong with your skin.
Do I have?
Yes. And social media, I think, has been a huge part of that. But also, then beyond that, there's, you're ever going to get a job, you're ever going to be able to afford a home, because you keep hearing about these damn Gen Xers, like people who are 40 plus fabulous, who own all the real estate and no one else can get in. According to the Murdoch Children's Research Institute, almost 3/4 of Australian adolescents experience clinically significant depression or anxiety symptoms, with many of them being chronic.
Do they mean just a one-off or do they mean over time?
Well,
what does
that's
that
a good question. I think, you're an adolescent. How long are you an adolescent for, officially?
Oh, what, mentally or physically?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
The Black Dog Institute tells us that mental disorders are the leading cause of illness and disability for young people aged 10 to 19.
The leading cause.
Leading cause. So to set our minds at rest, our guest today is the 40 plus fabulous Lyn Worsley, who is Director and Senior Clinical Psychologist with the Resilience Centre. Welcome, Lyn.
Welcome, Lyn.
Thank you for having me.
Joining us.
So good to see you, because this is a very anxiety-inducing topic, isn't it, among so many parents?
Grandparents.
Well, yeah, that's true, actually, yeah. It's very upsetting when it's your own child going through something that you can't control, and they're probably not great at communicating with you either.
Yes.
You just don't know what to do,
and,
I think.
And you don't know what the problem
cases.
is.
Exactly.
Yes.
Some degree of anxiety is normal in everyone, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. I mean, I'm worried about whether I should have that extra profiterole or not.
It's concerning. Yes.
Maybe I shouldn't have sent that reply all email at work.
Another concerning one.
But how do we know if our teens are unusually anxious? What would be the signs that something's not quite right?
Can I put you into the line of developmental psychology to start with?
Yes, please.
If we start thinking about a normal adolescent development, from the ages of 10 for girls in particular till about 15 or 16, there's a lot of development going on. Boys a little bit later.
Okay.
But during that time, we've got hormonal changes. And during that time, the brain, at the frontal cortex of the brain, is lagging behind the rest of the brain. So all the rest of the brain gets organised and tries and grows, and the frontal lobe takes a little time. Now, the frontal lobe is what gives you some good feedback loops.
Oh,
and it gives you feedback loops about, don't do that again. Maybe you should just sort of monitor yourself a little bit more, and so on. So once that starts to kick in, it's out of sync with the rest of the brain.
Oh.
And so what tends to happen in normal adolescent development, and it would have happened to us as well, a whole lot of changes come in place. And one of the main changes that we see is what you call the imaginary audience.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's this sense
I know
of
them.
yes, a sense of that someone's watching me and I might look stupid, or I walk past the glass on the shops and I just glance at myself just to make sure that I'm looking okay. And so I dress like my friends and I might try and do things like my friends, and I'm always worried about whether someone might have noticed that I did something dumb. So that's sort of the bit of the frontal cortex trying to practice the feedback loop.
Oh, okay.
And so that normal development it's fine, it's okay, but it does look like anxiety.
Okay.
And when I say anxiety, we can talk about anxiety disorder as being something on its own, but actually it's really anxiety is a symptom itself, not symptoms of anxiety, but anxiety is a symptom that there is something going on in the brain that's in conflict, and it's just trying to work out how to reconcile whatever that is.
Right.
So what's an example of that conflict?
What do I look like? I'm developing breasts. Am I bigger than my friend? Am I shorter than smaller than my friend? Am I going to need a bra, or is the bra going to be fitting? Or what if I've got to go to PE? What if I've got to get changed in front of someone? Oh, I'm not going to go to the sports carnival because that looks dumb, and I can't go to the swimming carnival because my cosy's not right now. So all of that is the conflicts that are going on with the imaginary audience that everybody's watching.
Yes.
And so to try and reconcile that, you would work out how you might fit in with other people and sort of, blend in. And once you blend in and you look like everyone else, the anxiety symptoms or the anxiety itself dissipates.
Okay. How could you tell if someone actually had a disorder?
Yeah, so an anxiety disorder is when those symptoms become so profound that they stop the child from doing their normal development. And what we want a child to do is to fit in with their peers, to mimic their peers and to actually become a little bit like a mirror to their peers. So it's actually good that they're all wearing the same clothes and speaking in the same way and doing the same thing. That's quite normal and good for moral development and for normal development. But if a child is so anxious about that they're withdrawing from all of that, their normal development process doesn't actually kick in because they don't have the feedback loop to say you're normal. They don't have the feedback loop to say you're okay. And so that's when they're withdrawing so much. They're not going to school, they pull back from things, they give up, they hide, they mightn't come out of their rooms, they might be just restricting food, restricting all sorts of things to stop them from having to deal with the conflict.
Right. Is it like they're almost paralysed by this anxiety?
Potentially, yes, but it is still quite a normal process.
Yeah, right.
Yes,
okay.
that makes sense. And so how long does that process go for?
Like 45 years?
Yeah.
It sometimes could be keeping on going. I'd just like to say that in my own upbringing, I was in the Twiggy era.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, so what do I do when I still walk past a window? Is it like, oh, do I look fat? Is that still the stuff that I haven't resolved in my own peer pressure that I would have had as a teen?
Yeah.
So I guess it's something that can keep going on, but what we do try and do is weigh it up over time and work out, is it really matter or does it not really matter, and how can I get by and what can I do to make myself feel a little bit better? That's normal. But if you see it resolving in a teen, it's usually when they're running with the crowd.
Right. I had a daughter, which I don't, if I had a daughter who was dressing the same as all her peers and I really did not like the way she dressed because it was provocative. Is it a bad thing for me to encourage her to dress differently or more conservatively?
You know what? As a psychologist, I think I'd be more worried if she wasn't dressing like her peers and if she was still doing what I told her to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That would be very concerning.
That's sort of what we want. But, there is that sense of needing to fit in to resolve that conflict that's going on in the brain and the imaginary audience's brain, because the imaginary audience is very real for a teen.
Yes.
And when it's not able to be reconciled, it then becomes a really loud voice. And so you reconcile it by being with the others who look the same as you.
And is it more so for girls than boys, or about the same?
Oh, I think it's about the same. The girls are a bit obvious. They've all got the denim shorts that are a bit short and frayed, and the white
Like a
T-shirt.
belt. Yeah.
And it's in the middle of winter, and they've still got their big legs showing right from as high as you can get, and they've got thongs
From
on.
the waist down.
And then a big fluffy jacket on top.
Yes.
It's just how it looks at the moment.
We've been down to the local shopping centre recently.
Oh, you saw me on the weekend then.
I tried to wear the jeans. It's just not the same anymore.
It just doesn't work for you. Okay, I get
It's funny
that.
what you were saying about that, because back in the day, in I think it was Rubens' time, the artist, people had what they call a Rubenesque figure, which was really voluptuous. And if you had a skinny figure, you were considered whoa, you're weird.
What's wrong
man.
with you?
Yeah, so everyone was trying to look fat.
Can you
know what
bring
I mean?
it back?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's
and so how does it look in the boys? Does it come out in the way they dress? Or
Yeah,
their
and a lot
behaviour?
of times boys will go through that sort of awkwardness. I mean, boys, when they develop, their feet get way too big overnight and they trip over things. They're clumsy. They become tall. Their nose gets bigger than their Adam's apple, and their voices squeak. And so they tend to recoil a lot.
Right.
Unless they're hanging out with their crowd. If they're hanging out with their crowd, but they're all happening at different times.
Yes.
And the imaginary audience is just the same. It's kicking in. The frontal lobe is a little bit later for the boys to develop that, which is why you have that lovely happy-go-lucky, year 7 and 8-year-old boys who are too loud and annoying in the classroom, and the girls are all starting to, giggle and become a little bit more self-conscious.
Yep.
And there's quite a different process for boys who are developing early versus later. But what we see is they may also try and dress the same. They might also try and do the same sort of things. They might be getting into gaming, which is really sort of cool for them because that often is a group thing.
Of course.
And if they're gaming with friends, then there's a little bit of using their brains to be able to make that happen, and they're not so awkward about how they're looking.
And doing physical things.
Skateboarding.
Yeah, all of that stuff. seems to
Brilliant.
Happen.
So if we have a teenage boy who's addicted to his gaming and goes on till, midnight or after, again, my question is that a problem? Should I get him off that?
It's only a problem if he's doing it by himself.
Right.
And he's not actually connected to a group in there. Right. And you don't know what he's on. Because gaming is designed to hook them in and then subtly get them into other things and subtly getting them into things that potentially are illegal. Right. And we would not know that. I always tell parents, get into gaming.
Yes.
Do it.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Start playing. Get dual consoles. Come on, do whatever you need to do.
We could game.
We could do that.
What sort of game do you think we should play?
Well, there's all sorts of things.
That
But
will actually decrease our anxiety level.
at the Resilience Centre, we have started having Dungeons and Dragons nights.
have you?
It's really
Okay.
fun.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
Are you good at
Okay.
it?
I think
what
I am,
level
but
are
I've
you?
only really played once. But,
Oh, okay, right.
Just tell us very briefly about the Resilience Centre that you've just mentioned there.
Okay, at the Resilience Centre, we're a therapy organisation. We're psychologists and a couple of social workers and counsellors. There's 23 of us now.
What?
We all have a Christian faith. We're in Epping. We also do training and research, and we gather data on change, and we do a lot of talks and so on out in the public. But it's the most wonderful place to work. I absolutely enjoy going to work.
And do you see adults and children?
Yeah, we have everyone through the lifespan.
And why is it called the Resilience Centre?
It's called the Resilience Centre because that's the outcome that we want to see. Well, I guess we're a little bit different. We're not sort of responding to the negative symptoms and so on. We're more likely to be looking at, well, what do you want to see happening when you come to see us? So our first question is, what are your best hopes for being here? And that becomes our idea of the preferred future that we know they want to have. And that is resilience. Resilience in itself is essentially seeing the symptoms that someone's coming in with as a potential strength and looking at how those symptoms may be helping them to grow and develop more as a person.
So if a parent comes to you with what they think is an anxious teen, which is probably going to make them more anxious going to you, what would you do for them?
My first question would be how is the anxiety serving you well?
Oh,
So what are you what is the anxiety helping you to do that you couldn't do without it?
Ooh.
And sometimes it might be, well, it's protecting me. Sometimes it means, it means that I give myself a bit of time out. And they'll often be flawed by it because it's like, well, everything in your body serves a purpose.
Yeah.
And if there are signals going on that telling you that something's not going well, how is that helpful? So what do you do in response to that? Was that helpful ever, or was it something that you just did and you didn't have a really good reason for it? And quite often someone will say, oh, well, it was helpful when I first started doing that, but now it's not. So, well, what else can we do?
Okay.
So the anxiety is more like let's not ignore it. Let's not try and dissipate it.
Yeah, or pretend that it's something necessarily hugely negative. It's just actually a part of what you're going through at the moment.
Okay. How young would someone start to get anxiety? What's the youngest?
Look, I think all children get anxiety symptoms. A child who's taken away into daycare for the first time and they're missing their mummy, that's an anxiety response. Any child who falls over and hurts themselves, that's an anxiety response. But it can be interpreted as being bad or good. It's more like if a child falls over, it's just like, oh, they're crying. Oh, are you going to pick yourself up again, or do you need mummy to help you? Okay, I'll come and help you. Okay, that's fine, rather than, and then it's not an anxiety response, then it becomes I tripped over response. So it's an interpretation of unpleasantness that I think a child develops.
Do you help people reframe that response so if they look at it differently?
So if a parent comes and says, my child's got separation anxiety, and I'm thinking, well, they probably do.
Yes.
Right. And that'll be $100.
That's probably because you're a really good mum or you're a really good dad and they've really attached well to you, so well done. So how can you use that, what they've learnt with you, to be able to be moving into connecting with other people?
Yeah. What about a child, say, maybe an 8 or 9-year-old child who gets teary a lot during the day?
Yeah.
Is that an anxiety response?
It's probably a symptom of being uncomfortable.
Yes.
So one of the best things you do with that is give them tools to be able to manage that. So that's the frontal lobe starting to need to be able to give some feedback.
Right, okay.
And so a 9-year-old child hasn't got a developed frontal lobe. They need some tools. So we give them tools in our group programs of how do you interpret those feelings and what can you tell your brain to think differently, and how can you change that in your own dialogue, in your own head.
So those are the tools that you give them, the ability to change that dialogue.
Yeah.
Or to kind of recognise something.
Step one, recognise. Step two.
And building up, we have a little group called Bright Thinking, and it's teaching the kids to be bright thinkers, and actually the adults to do the same, and adolescents to do the same, in that they might see that they have a pessimistic response. So how do you make an optimistic response, which then dissipates any anxiety symptoms?
Yeah, right.
Yes,
right. So what's an example of something like that?
A pessimistic response would be like, oh, that always happens to me. I can't do that.
Okay.
And so there's a sort of you can't change any of that. When you think like that, well, if it always happens to you, well, it's always going to happen.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, well, you can't change that. So we go, well, that's a global and a permanent state of thinking. So let's turn exactly the same thing into a temporary way of thinking and a specific one. So it's like, it sometimes happens to me as opposed to it always happens to me. I can't do this at the moment, but I could do it the other day. Okay, so what did you do the other day that made it different? Okay, well, I did this. Okay, well, let's try that. And instead of saying, oh, it happens to me, well, it happens to a lot of people. So here, the imaginary audience, everything happens to me, and then you move it to, it happens to other people. So therefore, it's not the imaginary audience anymore. Other people are going through the same thing. So what do? So all of a sudden you have an opening in your thinking that goes, it's not always going to happen. It happens at specific times and not others. And other people go through it as well. Then all of a sudden I've got some tools that I can do.
Although I have to say, when I think every time I really need to be somewhere, the bus is going to be really late. and I'm never wrong. So I'm never disappointed. So I'm never anxious about that because I know it's going to happen.
So that's actually an optimistic thinking.
Oh, really?
Even though it's a bad thing that happens, that the bus is late, because it's not about you. But if you go and see it's just me because I'm sitting at the bus stop and the bus is late. That's a pessimistic response, yeah. So where it's like, I give it a go, the bus is late.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm just predictable. It's about the bus.
But also
it's not about me.
It gives you realistic expectations.
It does.
When it's on time, you're like, wow, it's great.
That's
Wrong
true.
for a change.
So should I get worried? Should I get anxious when I see anxiety in my teenage daughter or son?
I don't think you should get anxious, but you should be alerted when you see those symptoms, when they're recoiling, they're not wanting to go to school, they're bailing from things, they're having thinking that goes circular thinking, so it's like a broken record.
What do you mean by circular?
So, do I have to go to camp? Do I have to go to camp? Why are you sending me to camp? I don't want to go to camp. Can you come? You pick me up. Are you going to be there? What if you're late? Blah, blah, blah. If those sorts of thinking is happening, that's the child in a sort of they're ruminating on something. And, that's a concern. But it is helpful to give them evidence. Like I've been late twice and I've been on time 100 times. And you're thinking about the 2 times that I've been late. I'd like you to remember the times that I was there on time and remember what you did when I was late, because you did some amazing stuff.
That's exactly what the bus driver said to me the other day. The one that was always late.
What, that you've done some amazing stuff? I was here 100 times, but the 2 times, that's the time you focus on. Oh, there you go. You've been told.
See?
And having the dialogue, not being alert, oh my goodness, you've got anxiety disorder, more like, you've got some anxious thinking. It's going around and around in your head, but I think you might need to tweak some of that thinking.
Right.
And that's what we do in our psychology practice.
Yeah.
We will go very much into having a dialogue and then just gently turning the language around a little bit and giving them some tools that they can use to manage that thinking patterns.
So how long will it take someone to sort of get used to applying those tools?
Look, it's horses for courses, I'm sorry, but it's my little rule of thumb. If I can't see a change within about 4 sessions, then I'm not doing well enough as a therapist. But I also sometimes can see the ruminating thinking still going on. But if the person is able to go, I'm ruminating again, I'm doing it again, you think, oh, well, that's good insight. So what are you deciding to do now? What do you want to change? I'm stuck on it. Okay, what did you find last time that got you unstuck? So all of a sudden I'm starting to poke them to say, you've actually got the skills in you, and you've already applied them many times before. Now it's time to do that again.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah, wow.
Do you think that teenagers in particular, I think, might think, going off to see a counsellor, there's definitely something wrong with me. I don't want to go.
This is one of the reasons why we call it the Resilience Centre.
Yeah.
Because they're going there to be resilient.
Yeah.
Right.
Not because there's something wrong with them.
Yeah. What does resilience actually mean?
Oh, man, this is the subject of my PhD. Are you really wanting to ask me this question?
Yes. Could you go through it at great length? That'd be great.
How long have we got?
3 aspects of resilience. One is to develop competence, personal and social competence. The second one is to be able to navigate with the people around you. So we call it the social ecology, so just basically a social navigating. And the third one is to go through adversity. You can't have resilience without the adversity.
Of course.
And adversity, of course, is different for everyone. And at different stages of life, adversity is different. And different cultures. However, adversity is adversity. So to navigate and negotiate with the social or the people around you, and I'm doing this circle thing with my finger here because I have a model called the Resilience Doughnut model, which is the subject of my PhD, that is now an internationally renowned model that looks at how you can link the most helpful and useful resources that you have at any point in time. And we only need 3 resources to be able to link in order to make us more resilient.
What are some examples of those resources?
So the resources we've got in each of us here would be, some of us would have a partner, some of us don't have a partner, or some of us don't have a great partner. I'd like to say I have a very nice partner. So there's a partner, because he's probably listening to this.
And also he's just had a knee operation.
He's just had a knee operation.
So he'll definitely be listening.
Definitely be kind to him.
There's a partner for adults. If it's a child model we're looking at, it's the parent factor. Then we've got a skill, so it might be something that you're good at, something you can practice and you become get some mastery on. We have a family factor. That could be your siblings, aunties, uncles, grandparents. Then we have education factor, where we have teachers or mentors. Then we have peers. In adults, it might be friendships, which are not necessarily linked to our same age, but with children and adolescents, often peers in the same age, because remember, that imaginary audience needs to have a group.
Oh, that audience again, yes.
Yep. And then we have community, which is why in community factor, in churches, people who are involved in churches or religious groups often have more factors linking with them because the churches have the factors in them. And then we have the money factor or the work factor. And what we see is that out of those 7 factors, I think I counted 7, everybody has different ones that are strong. And across cultures, there are different predominant ones as well. But what we look for is just the 3 top strengths. And we find in our centre in particular, we will do a test to see where your top resources are.
Okay.
So that when you're going through something challenging, who can you call on and who's going to notice the most? What are the changes that you would like to see? And who are those people that are going to help you to make those changes?
Oh, wow.
Okay, so you don't have to get anxious that you don't have all of them in place.
No.
3 out of 7 will do.
Yeah. In actual fact, our recent research, which is really interesting, has found that some people come into us and they have 7 factors that are incredibly high, a bit like you've got a lot of resources, a bit like spinning plates.
Yeah.
And those people have very low anxiety and very low depression scores, but their stress scores are off the page.
Through the roof.
Yeah, right.
And so we're having a little bit of a discussion between us going, but if we cut down on those resources, does that mean that then we open somebody up for anxiety and depression? And is taking on a lot of things our way of mitigating anxiety? So we're just asking those questions. We don't know the answers.
Oh, we'll get you back when you know the answers.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Can you tell us the difference between stress and anxiety?
Yes. Now, stress it's like a physiological response. Anxiety is often a cognitive response that leads to a physiological response.
Right.
So stress can be that you've just got too much on your plate, but you're still getting out the door and going to work and you're doing the things that you need to do and you're just running, probably like you guys, running 10 million miles an hour.
I never run except for the bus.
Yeah, but you're doing a lot, you're trying to do too many things and, you're stressed and it's like, But the anxiety is where you become paralysed. And oftentimes you're paralysed on things that seem innocuous and it really annoys you. That I just can't get away from this. I can't get it out of my head and I just can't get it out of my head. And so that becomes like a disorder.
How much do you think social media plays a part in causing anxiety in teens?
Go back to the imaginary audience. So what you do when you have an imaginary audience is you check in to see if everyone else is doing the same thing.
Yeah, right.
So we're on the social media 24/7. It used to be you would go to school and you'd check in with people and then you might phone them in the afternoon and hang up, use that whole one phone for the rest of the afternoon. Everyone would be annoyed with you. Yeah. But that was just one and then you'd have some time off. Now we've got social media going 24/7. The kids are not getting a break and they're not able to let the information filter into their brain. They're not able to let it sort of settle and go, oh, that person said that and that person said that.
Yeah.
They're bombarded with people who aren't actually their friends or their peers. They're bombarded with influencers. They're bombarded with YouTube clips. They're bombarded with somebody's telling a story and they've got some great new advice which has really got no sound basis to it. They're also Googling as much as they can, and they're looking for what fits with their own thinking, not what is actually good evidence.
Yeah, because I guess because you're flicking through at such a rate.
Yeah, so that's what I think. That's what see, that's what I think. I found something to support my terrible thinking.
But also like influencers who say, oh, this is what I eat in a day. And you think, oh, well, that's why they're so thin and gorgeous and I'm not. And, I feel like that really contributes.
I just want to watch Celeste Barber all day. Seriously.
Fantastic. There's so much of that though, isn't there? And I feel like as a teenager, you're so obsessed with it. It's just like, I need to look like that and I need to be doing that
Which
thing.
Which is why it's really helpful in schools if they've got to put their phones away or they've got to put them in a locker so they're not able to phone mum, tell mum, oh, this happened to me and she's dissed me and I don't know what to do and they're sort of, getting, pushing the anxiety of parents at home, whereas the child needs to actually navigate and negotiate with their social ecology, which is their school and their friends. Yes. And not keep going back to mum and dad all the time. And they need to work that out. If they go on camp, they then have to work out how to socially navigate and negotiate there and practice that. Bit of adversity, they've got to practice what they're going to do without the parents' intervention. And so they develop the skills in that. So one of the difficulties is that they're able to text and get help and the parents ring in, I'm just getting messages, what's happening with my child and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
I would have thought most kids would be desperate to get away from their parents.
No,
I know mine
goodness.
was.
No, we're getting so much
10-year-old on
so
camp.
much looking back and trying to get the connection. And I often say to parents, just pause. There's this great concept of having the pause. With a little baby, you pause. When the baby cries, you pause and see if they can settle themselves a bit. When they fall over, you pause before you jump in and rescue them, see if they can get up again. That's a great way of them learning how to navigate and negotiate. As an adolescent, you can pause a little bit longer.
Okay.
They're anxious about something. Just wait a little bit. You think, how did you go? Did you manage to sort that one out? I couldn't get back to you during the day because I was working. How did you work that one out?
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't check my messages until this afternoon. Are you okay? If they'd broken their leg or done something at school, they would have had a teacher sort them out.
Yes, okay.
So they don't need you to be jumping in. So I think the pause is really helpful because it lends itself to a question of, how did you sort that out?
Yeah.
What did you come up with? Oh, good on you. Was that person a right person or a not right person to sort of go to for help?
Yeah.
So it's just part of becoming independent, isn't it?
It's part of that second part of resilience, navigating and negotiating with your social ecology.
Okay.
Right. Is that part of the donut? Is that the jam in the donut? Or
Well, part of it.
or the sprinkles on the donut?
And it could be part of the third bit, which is navigating adversity.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
That's right.
You
So you're in
guys.
adversity and you navigate your social ecology to help you through that.
Right,
Yes.
right.
So think about someone in a flood. If it's flooding, you look and see if your neighbours are on a bit of higher ground. You go and check on them. You work out what you're doing. Somebody else has got a boat. Someone else has got a ute. You get that sorted. That's navigating your social ecology in the middle of a crisis.
Right.
And this is why we see people in Taree, people in Lismore, they've gone through so much, but you talk to them and they have got the network.
Yes.
They know how to network well and they can navigate their social ecology well. Doesn't mean that we don't help them, but it means that they've actually got it more together than probably the rest of us.
Because everyone's literally in the same boat.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And how do we help our adolescents or even later teens develop that network?
As a parent and a grandparent, one of the intentional things that we can do is to make friends with their friends. Not like best buddies.
Not in a creepy way.
Not in a creepy way. But, help them to connect with their friendships. So it might be offering to pick up their friends from, the party with, take turns with the other parents, getting to know the other parents and forming a sort of a community so that you actually know what their friends are like. And so when your child's going through some difficulties, you know which friends are going to be useful. How about we have that one over? No, they're not as good this week. What about the other one? Okay, that would be helpful. And then you've got that sense of knowing that they're being able to navigate and negotiate with their peers, not just with you. Right, okay. And as a parent, don't become the only person that can solve their problem. Don't become the only one in the donut that they're using. There might be a grandparent, there might be a step-parent, there might be someone at their local church who they really connect with. That's when you start seeing the child going, okay, mum's not around, so I might be able to go and get this person and I might be able to get that person.
One of the things I did, I have 2 sons, and one of the things I did when they were teenagers, because I was divorced by then, was actually ask a couple of men at church if they would particularly look out for each of my boys. Just have conversations with them.
That's wonderful.
And so is that a helpful...
That's extremely helpful. So that's you activating the resilience factors around your child. Yeah. And when you activate the resilience factors around your child, other people lean in. They've got permission to lean in.
Yes.
What if your teen is in like a really dysfunctional group? Which can happen, at that age, unfortunately.
Then you get to know the group, invite them all down to your place for pizza, and then get into gaming with them, do whatever it is. Okay. I mean, if they're going out spray painting walls and getting drunk, well, probably not a good idea to do that. Maybe you could go and pick them up and say, how about you come home? How about we come home and I've just made some caramel slice. Let's have a look at that. They'll always come home for that. Do something that makes it so that they're not dissed.
Yeah.
Because dissed is not a word, but I've just made it up.
I like it.
If you diss someone, this is what the kids do, they'll diss them, they'll push them away. But if you as a parent push away the very peers that they're hanging out with, you have just isolated yourself from being able to hang out with their friends. So
even
get to
if it
know
sort
them.
of goes against what you
If it goes against with what you feel, then you will have to manage that.
Yeah.
And one of the other aspects you can do is also help other people to be engaged. So it might be that there may be other strengths in that child's donut. It might be there might be some other kids, or it might be a youth group, or it might be a skill that they're involved in. I've got a great story. Said, look, my son hates me. He just doesn't even want to talk to me, and he's just
normal, right?
He's just hanging out with all the drop kicks, he called them, in the street, and all they want to do is skateboard. And my eyes lit up, and I think skateboarding's awesome. Yes, great for optimism.
So next thing, Lyn's out there with all of those people,
And so I thought, okay, so are they skateboarding in their street? And he goes, yes. And half the time they don't even go to school, and they don't go to the school that he goes to. And he's a bright kid and he needs to get, so I tell him he's got to get to school and stop him from skateboarding. And I said, you know what? I actually think it would be good if he did more skateboarding. This dad was a cinema photographer. Right. So I said, why don't you just get out and film them?
Oh, yeah.
And take some brilliant footage and just shut up.
Yeah.
Stop talking. Just filming. He goes, well, I do that for my work. I never talk. And it's good, then just do that. And so he got out there and started filming them, and then said, do you want to come back and have a look at the footage on the big screen? And so the kids all came in and they had snacks and they were filming them. And then he started putting the cameras on their helmets and taking some pretty close film. And they did a movie. He actually did a movie for me of them doing that. Now, it's interesting because from that, Dad got involved with skating himself, and the son started getting into downhill skating, which is more than just, jumps and
this sounds scary to me.
Very scary, longboard skating. Yeah. And Dad started doing it as well. So they used to just go on road trips together with all the kids in a bus and head down and do that together. And there were a few dads. And so they formed a community.
Yes.
And when I interviewed his son for a film that we managed to do with the dad's cinema photography, he said, my dad's been my best help.
Oh.
So all of a sudden, Dad was back in the picture and had more influence, and probably had more influence on the kids that he thought were drop kicks.
Yeah.
And ended up that the kid ended up going to do very well in school. He was quite famous at school because he was on all these YouTube clips and everyone knew him. and he ended up being an engineer, and of course that was probably all part of the process for him.
That's
so
a terrific
it was
story.
almost like coming at it from the strengths that I could see and that the father was seeing as not a strength.
Yeah.
So it's embracing what the child was able to do and have a sense of efficacy around,
Yep.
and being able to link it with the peers who were just like him, just kids,
Yeah.
trying to navigate and negotiate.
That's fantastic.
So sort of almost counterintuitive to
Yes.
what he felt,
Yes.
but he did it, and wow,
Yeah.
look what happened.
I was
That's
working
great.
with a family a few years ago, and they were very worried about their 16-year-old son who was doing the gaming thing until all hours of the night. Couldn't get him off it. They'd turn the internet access off. They'd do all sorts of things to try and stop him. And I suggested to the dad that he actually just go and sit with him and tell him to explain to you what he's doing on this gaming thing and get involved in it with him. Most people would think, no, you've got to stop them on the gaming. But
No, let's
what are your
get
thoughts
into
about that?
They'll game. They'll still game.
Yeah, right.
You can stop them, and it's one of those things. It's so addictive as well.
Yes.
That you start restricting it, it becomes even more desirable.
Right.
And interestingly, during the shutdown in COVID, kids were getting a bit bored with being on their games. They wanted to get out.
Right.
And so there was almost like a thing, do I have to be on the computer again?
Gaming.
COVID had its upsides, okay.
Yeah, but, again, that's exactly where the child who's good at gaming and is probably winning some things,
Yes.
that's a sense of efficacy. So turn it into a social thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I've seen it at a club recently. A parent had brought, about 5 boys in, and they all had their iPads, and then she set them all up around a table and they were all playing the same game. And it was like,
Brilliant.
oh, cool.
That's brilliant.
That is social. That's navigating your social ecology. And they would be connecting, and that frontal lobe, they'll be getting feedback around the stuff that they've been able to do.
We've just chatted about boys that, in particular, that get onto their gaming. And what about for girls? What are the go-to things that girls do these days that parents might go, oh, that's terrible, we've got to stop that, we've got to get them off that or stop them doing that?
Look, I think we're in a different era where it's not necessarily boys versus girls doing different things. However, the developmental milestones are still the same.
Right.
Boys do develop a little bit later than girls. Girls develop earlier, 10 to 12. Some of them are getting their periods earlier. What we notice with the girls who are just doing things that are of concern, it's the withdrawals. It's the girls who are not being as social. And, you have your introverts and so on, but it's the girls who are finding that they are feeling like they might call the bullying card and say, I've been bullied, I've been ostracised, I've been left out. I won't use the word ostracised. I'll be dissed. They're not invited to something. And so
Painful.
it's very painful, but that's also all of our own experiences.
Yes.
We've had the same. Yes. But the way that is done now is that they're not being mentioned on the social, they're not in the same social group, and they might have organised something and they're not on the list.
Yeah. How can a parent come alongside a girl and help her with that? So
I love those situations because on a moral development scale, one of the things that is really, really good for developing compassion is being not in the crowd. I think what we have seen in our research, particularly the resilience research, is that people who have been left out as teens, who are not necessarily being the popular person, have more compassion as adults, have more ability to feel and think for others
because they've been part of that.
Because they've been there. And so one of the
themselves,
conversations that I have with those girls that come to see me, because it's much more of a social process for them, is to go, this is an incredible opportunity for you to develop as a person and an incredible opportunity for you to look around at other people who are left out as well. And it's like, oh, no, I couldn't hang out with them. Like, nobody likes them. And you think, well, what's that saying about you right now? you're saying you don't like what they're doing to you, but you're doing it to somebody else. So what can you learn from that? And so that process, again, is that frontal lobe, giving them a feedback loop and a conversation. And as parents, one of the things that we can do is like, what have you learnt through this, sweetheart? How awful is this? It must feel like it must be just the worst. Is there anyone else in the school who's going through the same thing?
Would it help to have a conversation with a girl about why do you think the other girls are behaving this way?
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think, like, is that a silly way for that girl to think? Can you help them recognise that they don't necessarily need to be part of that group?
I like to think about a social map. So I'll draw a social map and think, tell me how they all fit together. Who's the most popular and who's the least popular and who's the one who always follows or who has all the ideas. And it's not like anyone's bad or anyone's good. It's just giving them a bit of an insight into the group. So again, coming back to helping them to manage to socially navigate and negotiate. Because one of the best things about being left out or feeling anxious about social things is that oftentimes it means you think a bit more about it. And so if you're thinking a bit more about it, you're going to learn a lot more. And then when you get to the workplace, you're going to navigate and negotiate that workplace in a little bit different way than other people would have done.
I'm also wondering, like, in a practical way, because, I mean, we've talked about boys, like how a dad could, join in the gaming or does the skateboarding and, film the skateboarding and become part of that crew. If your teenage girl is, like, being really rebellious, doing risky things, wearing risky things, shutting you out, what can you do then?
If they're wearing risky things, I think I'd be getting involved with looking at the fashion.
You'd wear it too? Or?
I wouldn't wear it too. I certainly would not wear it.
But you'd buy a Dolly magazine.
I don't think Dolly's there.
Dolly's not there. No,
but I'd be having a look at the influencers they're looking at, and I'd be saying, "Show me what else is in." Or let's go and look at some shops.
Yeah.
And let's go and look at the sales, or let's go op shopping. Because one of the aspects of op shopping is that, you can get a lot more for your money. That's true. There's a lot of people throwing stuff out. And so op shopping is a really cool thing to do.
It's fantastic, Plus, as a teen, they're not going to have a lot of money. So if you buy them stuff, that's
even better.
That's great bribery.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
And even getting involved in, looking at, if that's how you're going to wear your short skirt, well, how can we get some bike shorts that make it so not everyone's seeing everything, but it still looks really good with your short skirt. Let's keep the short skirt, and let's even cut those jeans up that you had last time and work out how we can make them fray a bit more.
I still think you should wear the cut-off shorts. I really think you should.
You
You've
reckon?
got the legs for it.
You haven't seen my legs.
Yeah,
sorry.
but don't body shame your own legs.
No, I just don't think I could do it.
You're not anxious about this, are you?
No, absolutely.
Good.
I was this Twiggy era, remember?
Right,
Yes,
that's right.
of course. That's I
Don't
remember.
look in the windows.
Yep. Do you think kids with autism spectrum disorder would suffer more from anxiety than kids without it?
It's not like they're more prone to it. I think that kids with autism spectrum disorder are struggling with managing to navigate their social ecology.
Yes.
Because quite often it's too overwhelming to have too many people or too much noise in their environment. So them being able to navigate and negotiate takes a little bit of a different tact.
Right.
And so if people are expecting them just to navigate and negotiate, and then the anxiety will come up.
Right.
So what we've got to see is that anxiety is serving quite a purpose in that. So that it's warning you that you're not coping with this, and so you're going to shut down. So then we go, okay, what was happening that made you shut down? And think, well, there was just too many people talking at once. Okay, so what do you need to do? Well, I need to process. Okay, how do you think you might like to process it? I need to do one thing at a time. Okay, let's back it up and work out what one thing you were able to do that day.
Yep, that's helpful.
I'm just thinking it's interesting, like anxiety often seems linked with depression, like, oh, he suffers from anxiety and depression.
Yes.
Is that true, or are they necessarily linked or not?
They are linked in their thinking patterns,
but
not necessarily in their presentation. Thinking patterns, like I said before, are very much pessimism, And the depressed person will have a pessimistic mindset as the same as anxiety. So once we're able to shift that, I often see someone coming out of a depressive state into an anxious state and I go, yay! Because anxiety is like a dynamic, it's an action and there's somebody's trying hard to sort of sort something out. Depression is like hiding under the doona and it's a dark, horrible place and it feels horrible. So anxiety, as much as it's, it's like you're running a marathon in your head and it's really physical, it at least is active. It's a sign of change. And you can have anxiety without depression and depression without anxiety.
Yeah, right.
But the thinking pattern is very similar.
What's the place of medication, especially in teenagers?
Very good. I don't tell everybody to go on medication. I think they need therapy first, but they should never have medication without therapy. If you've got a child who's really getting into obsessive compulsive symptoms or eating disorders and so on, where they're on that awful loop and the ruminating loop and they can't get off it, that's a case of like, let's get some of those neurons in line and some of the neurotransmitters back into right balance. And often times we see a shift very quickly, and if you're having therapy at the same time, it's good for us because we can go, oh great, now we can practice this optimistic thinking and work out how that looks, because while you're in this happy space and you're able to do that, it will help you for when your medication is taken off.
Okay, so can medication be addictive?
Most of the antidepressants are not addictive, but they're long acting. So what we need to do is to make sure that nobody comes off them straight off, that they have to be filtered down as they come off it. But there are some people who have got such extreme anxieties and an anxiety disorder that the medication becomes a lifelong process for them.
Okay.
So I like to think about in adolescence as being, let's go with what is normal, and then what is normal is there's a developmental process, and the developmental process is the brain is growing and it's learning. And so we need to work with that. And so our process is, okay, let's get the medication in there to get you off this horrible ruminating process, and let's get some cognitive behaviour therapy, or as I would use, a solution-focused approach, where we're looking for what works and we're looking for functions of behaviour and giving the child the agency in managing their own brain, and then filter them off the medication, and then let's start practising that.
Okay, thank you.
So gorgeous. If any parent listening to this who's 40 plus fabulous thinks their teen might have anxiety, what do you recommend they do?
I recommend that they go to some sort of a group. You can do a whole lot online as well. I suggest that potentially the parent might want to have some sort of tweaking of the language that they use at home, and there's lots of things online that you can look up. I don't think first line should be a psychologist. You don't want to over-pathologise a child. But certainly psychology services where they've got group programs and so on, where a child can actually see other people who are similar to them, because the imaginary audience can come down.
There's
and
a real
they're able
audience.
to, and there are other people who are able to go through the same thing, and it sort of normalises it. But I certainly would get some help. And the first line, of course, is always the GP.
Okay.
All right, okay. And then, is it helpful for a parent who's worried about their teen to actually go and see a psychologist to say, help me, how do I navigate this?
Yeah, I think that's my preference. To say, let's give you some tools as a parent and let's see how you might be managing that and tweaking that, because as parents, I know I'm a psychologist, but as a parent, even with my adult children, I am still triggered by anything that they go through because we're attached, and we don't, when we're so attached, we don't have good sense. So parents need to have a little bit of confidence about being able to say no, or to manage some of that. And if it doesn't shift, it's then, okay, let's see if we can get somebody in to see them.
Get a second opinion. Well, gorgeous, thank you so much for coming on. She Wasn't Born Yesterday. I mean, it's been fascinating.
Absolutely.
You know, and we've been taking copious notes, and we really appreciate. I think this will be a fantastic help to a lot of parents, and we hope that The audience shares it with friends who might be
It's
going
not imaginary audience either, is it?
No, it's true, exactly.
Some of them are. just
No,
saying.
it's just an audience with a good imagination. You're getting mixed up. Yes.
And I think our key takeout is, when in doubt, eat donuts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Am I right? Yes.
Well, I think the key takeout is anxiety is a very, very normal thing.
Yeah.
Love that.
That'd be great.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much for
Lyn.
joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Gorgi, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this ep as much as we did.
And why not join us for more insider goss and sneaky pics on our Facebook group called, strangely enough, She Wasn't Born Yesterday.
So jump on the socials and see you next time, or rather, chat soon.
Hope 1032. Thanks for listening.